Naofumi Iwatani, the martial arts hero, has just found out that Melty is part of the royal family. Mine, Motoyasu, the king, all have been giving Naofumi trouble just because of who he is. Because he doesn't have a weapon. Because he's some figment of the shield hero. He doesn't know. But will he trust Melty? Even though she hasn't shown much, well, you could say, malice toward Naofumi, will he not trust her just because she's part of the royal family? Let's find out on What If Naofumi was the martial arts hero. Yo, what's good everybody? It's your boy Golden Follows Golden What If, whatever you want to call me. And I am back. I'm back with the finale of What If Naofumi was the martial arts hero. And as always, if you enjoy, make sure to leave a like, sub, comment down below, and leave any suggestions for future what ifs. And I hope you all enjoy the finale. And let's get right into it. Let's get it. Naofumi stands there in disbelief at the learning and him knowing that Melty is part of the royal family, the second princess, the heir apparent to the queen. He doesn't know how to feel about this initially, thinking that Melty could turn on him in any second, any moment of time right now. Yes, he's helped her. Yes, he was nice and all of this, but he didn't do anything to the royal family. So what says that she won't turn on him as well? They decide to go to Erhard's, blacksmith, to talk about this. And Melty explains that she is not her sister and that she is not the person he should be threatening by or be threatened by. And Naofumi says he won't put it against her, not right now, but he isn't so sure if he can trust her. Raftalia and Ellie do point out the fact that, well, she does deserve a chance to prove herself at least, and Melty says that she promises that she means no ill will and that all she wants is to find success for Naofumi's party, especially in the waves of catastrophe, and that's what matters to her. So Naofumi decides that he'll in the meantime trust her, or sort of trust her for the moment, but he does have some things to handle. He needs to get ready for the next wave. A small party actually wishes to join him to basically help Loot Village because that was their hometown and he saved them without even really realizing it. He personally decided to make sure that Loot Village was safe, and he says that he doesn't necessarily want to allow them in his party, but he will provide them with things that they'll need for their journey to help their village and save Loot Village. But Naofumi begins to say that they need to figure out something. They need to actually get their class upgrades, speaking with Melty and asking where they should head for that. She explains that the Dragon Hourglass is where they'll get their class upgrades, in which they head over. But when they do, it seems that the royal decree refuses to let his party get their class upgrades. He is frustrated by this and doesn't understand. But luckily, the slave market owner actually tells them about Shield Freedom and their hourglass, that they can go to a different country and, well, get their levels uncapped or their class upgrades so that their cap increases. But with that all said, the next wave will strike before they reach there. So while scouting for towns and various other things, Naofumi actually does happen upon some starving refugees who fled a revolution started by the very own of their heroes, the bow hero, which he finds to be infuriating. He tries to help them in terms of food, water, and everything like that, and explains to them that he'll try to get everything sorted for them, but they're gonna need to work together the best they possibly can. And they all agree. So Naofumi, over this short period of time, helps them with food, water, shelter, and everything that he possibly can until, well, obviously the wave is near. Returning for the wave though, Naofumi gets encountered by Ren and Itsuki, in which they accuse him of stealing their rewards, they accuse him of stealing their rewards, and he explains that the revolution that Itsuki started turned really bad, and that putting in a new government like that, just as corrupt as the old one, doesn't fix the problem. And Ren was having a very, very big problem in terms of killing something but not disposing of it. He killed a giant dragon and it caused a plague, a horrible plague, and this bothered Naofumi heavily. The fact that he didn't even think that it would affect other people bothers him greatly. They hear what he's saying and luckily listen to the words that is coming out of Naofumi's mouth and decide to actually focus on these things that he's saying. But there's no guarantee that they'll always focus on this. With all that said and done, it doesn't matter anymore. Erhard gives Naofumi some upgrades that he needs for his armor and weaponry, and actually gives a couple upgrades to his brass knuckles and his shin guards and stuff like that, so he can continue on using all limbs when fighting. And he actually asks Erhard if he could make something that would recognize this power that he has, and Erhard says that that is definitely out of his jurisdiction and definitely out of his skill range. He apologizes that he won't be able to help with that, but Naofumi says that it was a long shot anyways. Luckily, they were able to buy better gear for his party and the other party that's going to help protect Loot Village, and now it's time, actually 24 hours of time before the next wave arrives. With everyone equipped, everyone ready, they arrive at Loot Village to protect them as best they possibly can, in which they do just fine. It's very easy actually, but after a couple hours, Naofumi worries that the other hero's progress is stagnant. It seems like nothing is occurring, but luckily he can leave. Everybody there at Loot Village is pretty capable of defending themselves, so they head off with Philo, Ellie, and also Raphtalia. When they arrive, this is not good. They see the Dutchman's ship still sitting there and the other heroes arguing about it. Naofumi chastises them for their inattention and exposes immediately what he sees, the shadow next to the Dutchman, which Raphtalia is able to expose the hidden boss, the massive Soul Eater. Immediately, Naofumi begins to try and focus, and he says that he needs some time. Maybe he can forcefully make this power come out. He's not sure. Out of rage and fear for someone's life, that's why it came out. So maybe it won't come out again, but maybe he can replicate that said feeling. He begins to focus more and more, but it's a roadblock. He can't get it. He can't transform, and he can't make himself that powerful person he was before. Nothing's working. He realizes that it doesn't matter anymore, and that he can probably fight the Soul Eater on his own or with his party if they work together properly. In which Philo is able to kick it from the side as Naofumi immediately grounds it into the ship, and they begin to try and attack it. And after a decent amount of struggle, they're finally able to defeat it. Luckily, they were able to do this, but the other heroes are just standing by. Actually, just shocked that he was able to finish it up so quickly. But this shock and everything would come crashing down when another one appears. Naofumi believes that maybe they have enough strength to finish this one off as well, but that's not the case, because that one dies instantly. Glass, a woman in a black kimono wielding two bladed war fans, has arrived. The true enemy of this wave has just been revealed. This Raven invader easily defeats the other three heroes and their parties, and she steps up challenging Naofumi, saying that he's very interesting, seems very powerful, but Naofumi is taking this very seriously. He doesn't care what Glass believes and immediately charges at her at really fast speeds, but when he goes to punch her, she blocks it with her war fan, but with some resistance. It seems like Glass is slightly struggling at, well, holding back the power of Naofumi. His stats are high, his level may be low, but the boost he gets from his hand-to-hand unarmed combat is a high one. Naofumi decides that maybe he can expose a weakness Glass has, maybe he can get on a certain side of Glass that she won't be able to strike him, or maybe he can get her to the ground. He immediately tries to sweep her legs and flip her on her back, but she's able to do a backflip, kicking him off, and she's shocked to see this. Some hero that is really in depth in martial arts, really in depth in fighting. This is unusual. She's personally relies on her power, but she has a very agile style, so she's able to dip and dodge out of certain situations, and she realizes that taking Naofumi seriously is very important. So that's what she starts doing. blasting at Naofumi's party, forcing them to retreat, and Philo is able to get them out of dodge, at least temporarily. Luckily, Ellie can keep them replenished and healing, but as a massive blast comes soaring at them, Naofumi gets an idea that he's done before against the spear hero. He stands up and goes to counter the blast, holding his hands out, and he's holding it back. But instead of parrying part of it, he tries to absorb the entire blast. He absorbs half of it, but then realizes that he can't absorb the entirety of it. It's going to hurt really bad if he messes up even 1 centimeter. If it lands clean on his chest, it might just kill him. He swipes the rest away and he gains levels from it. Now being at a level of 47, Naofumi looks up and analyzes the invader, and it seems like she's gotten weaker. He smirks and tells Philo that she needs to turn around, that they need to go on the offensive now while she's weakened, and he attacks, punching her clean in the face and kicking her in the stomach, sending her back to the backside of the ship. He goes in to grab her, dragging her out of the ship, and continues his offense. As she tries to dodge and kick him away, she's questioning him. How the hell did he get so strong in such a short amount of time, and how does she feel so weak? Luckily, she might be able to heal herself, replenish herself with something, but as she gets this in mind, she senses that the wave is about to finish up. She senses that she's going to have to leave now. So Glass decides to take her leave and attack him later on. If she wasn't so weak right now, even this strong Naofumi would be nothing to her. So she heads off. She leaves and smiles, saying that she definitely will be back and she hopes that he'll be ready. He smiles, saying that he'll definitely be ready and that she's the one retreating. The wave closes and Naofumi stands there with his party as everybody questions what power did he just show off, and he said he's shown it off before. He's used that power against Motoyasu. But that's not the point. That doesn't matter. After all of this occurs, he's finally summoned back to the castle, but the king is pissed and demands him to reveal the secrets behind his abilities. But Naofumi refuses, saying that if he's not here to give him money to continue on with his duties, he'll just leave. He has things to work on anyways, and he doesn't need to deal with this. Naofumi goes to leave, but the royal guards try to stop him. Do you really think you can stop me with those weapons? Trust me, it's gonna be a bad day for you all. Naofumi just pushes them away and continues walking. The king basically says that he'll torture his other party members if he so chooses not to. But as he's saying, and as he's finishing that sentence, Naofumi turns and his aura flares up. This red aura appears around him and it engulfs the entire area. It feels like the devil is staring at him. Naofumi is pissed now. This aura that is behind him is this deep red. It seems like the anger is showing. And he's saying, and he begins to say that if he even tries to lay a hand on his teammates, on his party members, he'll tear this whole castle to the ground in an instant. He punches the ground and it basically vaporizes the entire ground that's in front of the king, and the king is in shock at the power that Naofumi can actually hold as the aura begins to dim and go back into his gem. He leaves. He's over this and says that he has things to handle. As he heads out though, he's approached by a woman covertly who warns Naofumi about the church of the 3 heroes. He grabs the little emblem that she gives him and says that he already knows that they're corrupt. It's pretty blatantly obvious. She says that there's more to it than just that, and to keep that in mind. Naofumi sees as she immediately disappears and leaves as well, thinking that he might have to crack this case on his own. But with all that done, he needs to leave. He needs to leave with his party, and they need to get to Shield Freedom so they can get their class upgrades. This is what matters now. He may be getting stronger exponentially at this point, and he'll be able to get stronger and stronger throughout this entire time, but his class is, or his partners are at a standstill. So they need to get to Shield Freedom as soon as possible. Naofumi and his party departs, but as this occurs, someone is en route to meet him, and it's Melty. who wants Naofumi to reconcile with the king, and Naofumi says that he can't do that, but he senses something. He senses malice, ill intent, he senses aggression. Why does he feel like that? Why does it feel that something's going to... He looks up to see Melty's bodyguards about to assassinate her, but Naofumi steps in front of it and shatters the blade immediately. You all really want to play this game? To kill the heir apparent to the throne? Wow, I didn't know you were this scummy. I knew you were scum, but this is a new low. Naofumi tells his party to surround the cart, surround everybody, and nobody is allowed to leave. These people cannot leave. And they listen to what he's saying. Raftalia goes right behind them. Philo goes at one side and Ellie goes on the other. Ellie might not be able to strengthen much, but having the presence of another person on that side, that's all that matters. Naofumi steps forward and begins to beat down everybody so fast that it looks like it's a bunch of rookies. It looks like he's a karate master versus a bunch of white belts. He immediately just chops them down to size, knocking them all out cold. He ties them all up and immediately begins to question them, saying that he wants to know who sent them and who made this order, or else. Philo threatens, saying that she'll continue to bite one after another their heads off if they don't answer. Out of complete and utter fear, they decide to answer, and they say that mine sent them to assassinate Melty. Luckily, Ellie has something up her sleeve and has it for a while. She is a support magic type hero, and she has something that can record exactly what's going on. Very, very similar to the orb, or the glass orb that he sees early on in this story. She actually can do that on Will with her staff. Recording this, getting this evidence is what matters to Ellie, and she doesn't even tell Naofumi this, but Naofumi decides that he's going to leave them all tied up and break whatever they have that they're going to use to either expose him or expose Melty. So they break the glass they have, or the orb they have, and this word of this doesn't necessarily get to the kingdom as soon as possible. He leaves them all there, but makes sure that they're bound really, really tightly, so it is going to be a struggle if they really want to get out, and they decide that they're going to leave once again. They head off to where they need to go. But while going through the mountains and getting deeper and deeper, it seems that the three heroes and the people of the kingdom found out of this quote-unquote kidnapping of Melty, and now he's some fugitive. But Melty explains, saying that that's not true and that she tried to get her assassinated. And actually Ellie has full proof of this, showing the other three heroes immediately. Ren and Itsuki immediately realize what's happening, that she's trying to play them for a fool, and they're not going to let her do that. So they step in front of Naofumi and they step in front of Melty, saying that it's time for them to leave right now. Naofumi hands something to Ren with no real answer and says that he's smart, he'll figure it out. They leave, and Ren and Itsuki stand in front of everybody else, not even letting them move. Motoyasu questions what they're doing, and he says that if Motoyasu could think for himself, or Ren and Itsuki say that if Motoyasu could think for himself, that he'd be standing with them right now. That video, that tape, the recording that they just heard is blatantly obvious that Melty was more or less tried to get assassinated, and that Mine is the person who tried to do this. And Motoyasu says that that's ridiculous, but with all that happening, everybody loses, or everyone that's hunting Naofumi loses him. But during this time, Naofumi decides to go to a certain place that he's able to be safe and okay initially. But with all that going on, someone shows up once again. A royal decree, someone that is a shadow for the queen, shows up and asks him to please go to the queen and that she wants to speak with him. And he explains that that's not going to happen. They need to get this all done and set over with. He needs to get his class upgrades. And she says that it's his choice overall. But when they head to Silvelt, somehow they got a royal decree not letting Naofumi cross that border, which is a problem. So they decide that they're going to travel, according to Melty, to a nobleman by the name of Van Richnot, who rules over the area. And by surprise, they are met by him and they let him in. And he's obviously informed of their situation and invites them to stay the night. But this was a bad idea for Richnot, because come dawn, he's arrested. And well, the maids may hide Naofumi and Raphtalia, but he is arrested and Melty is taken with him. Naofumi is given this anxiety, is pissed, and he can see it in Raphtalia. She feels the exact same way. So they decide that they're going to save Melty, save Richnot, and save whoever else is in there. So they infiltrate the castle where Richnot is currently being tortured in front of Melty. And also, Naofumi can sense this amusement from this man, from Rabier himself, this amusement at beating somebody senseless. Naofumi is pissed, peeling him off and throwing him against the wall, untying Richnot, asking if he's okay. Raphtalia confronts Rabier and stands in front of him and trips him as he tries to get up and begins to beat him down, making sure that he's out cold. He's slightly, almost unconscious, but he pitifully begs for mercy, but Raphtalia is not going to give that. Why would she? Why would she decide to do such a thing? Ellie says that killing would not be the answer in this situation, that making him suffer would be. And Naofumi is confused to hear this. What do you mean suffer? How so? You'll see. I'll show you. Ellie walks up and places her staff on his head, and it begins to erase all the memories Richnot has and everything he's ever thought about. Immediately, he's confused. He doesn't know where he is, and he's terrified at the aspect that there's these people in his place and they have blades at his neck. And they realize what she did. She completely erased everything Richnot ever did. All the enjoyment that he had, not there anymore. But also she added some other things. These horrible memories of himself being tortured, himself being hurt. And that's what he'll be traumatized with for the rest of his life. Luckily, Raphtalia is able to leave this place very, very quickly, but she actually finds some other things, or some other people, in fact. She finds, well, the dead body of one of her best friends, but also someone else. Someone else that she knew when she was little, her old friend Keel. And this person, he's still alive. It's been months, maybe close to a year, and luckily he's still alive. And Raphtalia breaks down at the sight of him, but also the remains of her other friends who were just left to rot in this cell. She's sad. She feels like she abandoned them, but he even says that that's not true. Naofumi tells her to listen to her old friend, that abandonment is not what she did here. She survived, and he survived as well, and unfortunately the others didn't. But now that she is alive, she can carry on the legacy of the others. Raphtalia promises that one day they'll go home and that she'll rebuild everything. And Naofumi smiles and says that he'll be just by her side when he does just that. When she does just that. She smiles and hugs Naofumi, and they head off once again. But this time, there's no dragon monster. There is no Tyrannosaurus Rex that will try and kill Naofumi. It's a peaceful ending in this weird capital, and Rabier is stuck in his infinite loop of PTSD and trauma. But even with all that said, Philo gets a sense of something, hears someone. She says that they should go over to the lake, so they do. But Naofumi questions what she's talking about, what is even going on, until a girl comes out of the lake. I've heard stories about this. Is this the Lady of the Lake? Am I gonna get a sword or something? I'm actually confused. Naofumi is very in confusion at this point, very confused at this girl that looks like Philo, frankly. It just comes out of the lake like nothing, and she explains that she is the Filolial Queen and that she wants to speak with them in her own domain if they don't mind. And he agrees, and they're immediately teleported to the Filolial Sanctuary in a faraway ruins. Naofumi, though, asks Vittoria some questions, and what is the true nature of Philo? She explains that Philo, due to a hero raising her, has seen this extraordinary growth, and that's the case. She's only going to see that growth when they're with a hero. And he asks if that would be the case if he had any Filolial in his party, and she says more or less, but it also takes a proper connection. And Naofumi nods and asks what the Filolial Queen, Vittoria herself, would want with him, and why is she bringing him here. Vittoria asks some questions to him, though. Asks why are they only fighting in Melremark, because the waves are not just here, and Naofumi didn't even know this. Naofumi admits that he's not personally powerful enough at the moment to fight every single wave, but he would be out there fighting them if he knew about this. He didn't even realize. Vittoria basically says that it's okay that he doesn't know, but it's good he knows now. Vittoria explains that she's been protecting the other nations alone to fulfill the last wish of her hero, or the hero that raised her, but she knows that she will perish very soon. So she urges Naofumi to make amends with the other heroes. But even Naofumi says that the chances of this happening are pretty low. Ren and Itsuki, he can get behind. There's a good chance that will happen. But if we're talking about Motoyasu, there's a good chance that he will reject the idea. He explains everything that has occurred, and she begins to get emotional, thinking that there shouldn't be this clash between the heroes. And he explains that it all starts, well, with mine and the king. And it's that simple. They're trying to do some sort of sabotage, it feels. And Vittoria agrees that it does sound that way, but even with all that said, Vittoria says that the heroes need to unite. She doesn't know how he'll do it, but he needs to do it. So Naofumi says that he will try his absolute best, and he promises that he won't stop until he can. And she says that's all she wants. But there is something else that she needs to do, and if he's up for it, she'd like him to know before it occurs in the next morning. The next morning then arrives. Vittoria takes Melty hostage, and Naofumi tries to attack her but gets blasted away. And she says that she wants to test the convictions of Philo. How strong is Philo really? And Philo is outmatched in a battle, especially in their human forms. But luckily Philo is able to land a blow to break through Vittoria's magical defense, and she's satisfied. Vittoria names Philo as the successor, which grants her an insane amount of base stat increases. But not only that, she walks over to Naofumi and taps him on the chest, actually specifically where the gem is. She explains that there's something about it. He might be the unarmed hero or the martial arts hero, whatever he wants to be called, but there's something about a Filolial, something that he could learn from Filolials being fast, light on your feet. And he is confused to hear this and is asking if she's gonna train him or something, but she says no, that she's gonna she basically has unlocked everything in terms of Filolials, and that he should be lighter on his feet when he's in this weird state. Actually, it seems to be more passive in terms of him, so it actually will work out pretty much better in a fighting scenario. She explains that he still will have the power he normally has, but he should be slightly faster, better, and he should have a floating like effect, and this should help him with his martial arts. And he actually begins to bounce around and says that he does feel really light on his feet, lighter than he's ever felt in his life. He thanks her and is confused at exactly how it even happened, but doesn't really question it. But with all that said and done, it's now time to go. It is now time to finally try to make peace with the heroes. So Vittoria sends him to the nearest hero nearby to start reconciling. But unfortunately, it's the hardest one. It's not Ren, it's not Itsuki, it's Motoyasu. And he refuses to listen. He accuses Naofumi of killing Ren and Itsuki, but Naofumi stops him right there. That doesn't even make sense. He wasn't even there. He hasn't been around them. So how would he kill him? And Malti affirms that the church found evidence against Naofumi that he killed Ren and Itsuki. And Naofumi clicks it all in his brain. You're kidding me. You realize the church is playing you for a fool. Mine, you're really messing up. And I think I just figured it all out. Mine laughs at this, saying that he's figured out nothing. Don't act like he's so smart. But as they're talking about this, Philo taps him on the shoulder and says that something big is coming. Something bad. That they need to move now. That it doesn't make sense for them to stay here. And his mages, Motoyasu's mages, tried to encapsulate them to keep them near them so that their fight can begin. But Naofumi's able to break free the barrier, and he tells them that they need to move now. And if they don't move, that they'll die. So Naofumi leaves with his party, leaving them behind as well. And Motoyasu and Mine decide to decide to basically entertain this idea. So they run away with them. But as they do this, a crash of light slams into the ground, and if they didn't move in time, they all would have been dead. They walk back to the crater to see somebody standing on the top of the hill. It seems like the Pope has now turned, and he has the ancient weapon that replicates all 4 of the cardinal heroes. He explains that these false heroes don't deserve to live, and that he personally will kill them all, and he's personally already killed 2 of them, and then he'll take over this monarchy, and he will be the ruler of Melromark and then everywhere else. And this is not good. Now Fumi and Motoyasu are going to be forced to fight with each other, to basically defend against the Pope for the sake of their own parties and the sake of their own lives. And they begin fighting back as the Pope begins to launch blasts at them. And Rautalia asks, can't Naofumi absorb one of these blasts? But he says that they might be too strong, that if it lands on him cleanly, he'll definitely die. And it's not worth the risk right now, especially not in his max power form. And he doesn't even know how to activate that on will. Something would have to happen. They continue fighting, clashing with the Pope the best they possibly can. But right when everything seems to get dim, right when everything seems to be at a loss, Naofumi can sense something coming. Ren and Itsuki come out of nowhere, slashing at the Pope, helping the other 2 heroes. And they explain that the shadows were able to save them, luckily, and it won't be that easy to kill the heroes. While all 4 of the heroes stand in front of the Pope, it's time for them to, fight together. Naofumi says they need to reconcile, that all of this little fighting, bickering, it doesn't matter anymore. This is ignorant, that they need to fight together, especially to beat him and to beat the rest of the waves. Ren and Itsuki are on board with this idea. Motoyasu, though, on the other hand, says that they'll talk about it later, that let's just get this fight done and over with first. So that's what they start doing. The fight against the Pope finally begins. The real fight begins. But during this, they start getting enclosed in a battlefield inside a magical cathedral. This isn't good. It seems like the effectiveness of everything is kind of lower, but that doesn't matter. If Naofumi can just find a way to activate that state he was in, he'll be able to step up. He tries to focus on everything he's seen, the rage, the time that he saw Philo die, the attempted assassination of Melty, what would have happened if he didn't step in? Would she have died right in front of him? The threatening, the king threatening him to actually hurt his party members. As he thinks of this, an aura erupts around him once again, but this aura is different. This aura is a dark purple color. It seems like it's reacting off of the shard that is in his gem. It seems like it's reacting to Ren. And this power is even more powerful. It's stronger. It seems to be a 12 times boost instead of a 10. And Naofumi now stands in front of the Pope, and the rest of them are in complete awe. This seems to be even more powerful than they've ever seen. Naofumi goes charging at the Pope, landing actually a punch on him as he gets flown backwards, but the Pope says to activate more power and that he doesn't care if the rest of them die, if the people that he follow him die. That killing these heroes is what matters now. The Pope decides that he's going to launch one final blast. One blast that will take out all of them in an instant. It will kill, maybe even slaughter so many of his people, but they know what they were in for. They know what true justice is. He begins to charge up the attack, and even the strength of the shield around him is stronger than even ever. No one can even break through. Naofumi even struggles to even get near him. The blast is ready to come. And Raphtalia looks at Naofumi basically in a way that basically tells him that there's only one way out of this. And he even knows there is. He puts his hands out and begins to focus the most power he's ever had in his life, ever had in this world. And he begins to think about everybody he cares about. Raphtalia, Ellie, Philo, Melty, the people that have trusted him throughout the journey, the people of the villages, Loot Village, and the people he saved from the dragons, poison, and plague, to the people in that revolution that Itsuki made. Now Fumi knows that this is what matters. That everything that happens right now is all on him. The blast comes soaring at Naofumi and comes soaring at the rest of the heroes. He puts his hands out and it begins to get pushed back. Naofumi holds the blast as much as he possibly can, and he decides that he's going to absorb as much as he can. He begins to absorb it, and the Pope stares on in awe, thinking that he can't charge up another blast in time if he absorbs and parries the entire blast. Naofumi continues to absorb it. More power. More power. His aura begins to erupt even larger, covering everybody around him. Everybody is now protected from the blast, and he continues to absorb it, and his aura explodes, shattering the cathedral in its entirety. And Naofumi, in a blaze of anger, he's on top of the Pope, and he rips his head off. The Pope is now dead, and his followers follow along with him. The blast actually exterminated about 95% of his followers. That strong of a blast is just ripped him to shreds and almost would have killed the entirety of all their heroes. Now Fumi jumps back down toward his party, and his aura dissipates. He collapses just as the Queen arrives with reinforcements to help. But luckily, Naofumi had it handled, and now all she has to do is evacuate them. She brings Naofumi back to a place for him to rest, in which he spends time recovering, eventually waking up, and Naofumi doesn't feel hurt, he just feels overexerted. Luckily, Ellie is a great healer and was able to bring him back relatively quickly, and the Queen is there and apologizes for all the troubles. The three-hero church, mine, the king, and Naofumi just shakes his head and says that all he cares about is the relationship he has with the other heroes. That's what matters now. Victoria told me that's what really does matter now. I need to be able to protect everybody, but without the help of the other heroes, it's practically impossible. The Queen kind of fangirls over this, saying that she didn't know he knew Victoria. Like, that's amazing. And they all look at her strangely, and she kind of postures back up and apologizes for her actions. And Naofumi just smiles and says that it's just fine. He says that he doesn't care what they do with mine, and he doesn't care what they do with the king. He obviously wants everybody else from the Three Heroes Church completely arrested and put in jail, and maybe even the king and mine should be put in jail, but he frankly doesn't care that much. But he does care that they get punished, that he needs them to realize their mistakes, and she cannot be allowed to do such a thing ever again. And he makes this very clear, saying that that is what matters. If she is allowed to sabotage like that again, there's going to be very bad consequences. And the queen agrees. So, mine is not allowed to be an adventurer, or at least she's going to have to go through various amounts of therapy to be an adventurer again, and the king is stripped of his royal title and has to do the same thing as mine, go through a bunch of rehabilitation. But luckily, the problem of mine and the king are subsided, at least for the moment. But will it truly be like that forever? Well, it's not so sure. But that's not the problem at hand, at least at the moment. Naofumi says that they do need to get their class upgrades, so that's what they go to do. After everything is settled with mine and the king, Naofumi heads to the Dragon Hourglass to receive his class upgrades, but it seems that the ritual fails. The queen, though, explains that it might not have failed. It might have to do with Vittoria's blessing, and it's somehow interfering with it. And it seems that, well, Vittoria may have given them an even bigger boost, but at the cost of having that choice. And he says that does make sense. A 50% boost wouldn't have given all of them such a boost at this time. But as they talk about this, Rautalia realizes something. Master Naofumi, your level! And Naofumi looks to see that his level has skyrocketed from around maybe level 50 to an upwards of level 70. Naofumi realizes that when he absorbed that blast, his level skyrocketed. Even a blast like that from someone that may have not been a high level, the weapon was insanely powerful, maybe even far more powerful than all of them combined. So absorbing that blast gave him insane amounts of levels, and maybe that's what put him out of commission temporarily. The fact that he accelerated his experience points so much. The queen is happy to hear this. The fact that the unarmed hero or the martial arts hero is getting stronger and stronger at a rapid rate is something she is happy to hear. And now he's that much stronger than the other heroes, so it is pretty beneficial. She does remind him that they have a 4 heroes council meeting and that she does want to speak with all of them about some things. And that's exactly what happens. The 4 heroes have a private meeting while Rautalia and the rest of his party hang out, eat food, and bully other people of their party members. The other heroes' party members, because, they're assholes. But that's beyond the point. They continue talking about other things and how they leveled up and gained XP, and they share their secrets the best they possibly can with limited bickering, but they do bicker a good little bit. With all that said, though, the queen then reminds them and tells them of something by the name of a special event of Calmira, the archipelago event. This event will gain them all bonus experience points, giving them an opportunity to level up before the next wave. As she says this, all the heroes realize what level Naofumi is, asking what the hell did he do? And he said, did they already forget about his power? He was able to absorb the blast that the Pope shot at them, and they do remember that. Ren and Itsuki begin to say that maybe they can learn something of that magnitude as well, but the queen does question that that's probably wouldn't happen. She assumes it's a special ability of the martial arts hero. The fact that you learn so many styles, you learn inner peace, it seems like martial arts is definitely a way of absorbing something, and that would be a good reason why he's able to do that. And as you can see, normally he doesn't absorb an entire blast, he actually counters and parries the other half of it. But in this case, he was forced to absorb even more, putting him out of commission. And they actually are pretty surprised to hear this, and it kind of does make sense. and they say that they guess they can't have any easy way out, and that Naofumi is the only one that has an easy way out. And he shakes his head and just rolls his eyes and says that he'll see them at the Kalmira Archipelago event. Naofumi and his party board the Kalmira boat and head to the Archipelago event, and they actually meet somebody. Meet Lark and Therese, people that he feels kind of an odd feeling for. It seems like they have this malice to them, but friendliness at the same time. It's kind of odd. There's no killer instinct, but there also is hostility within their emotions. He is very confused at how they're feeling, but he does greet them and explain that his name is Naofumi, and they say that, oh, he's one of the heroes. There's no way that he's one of the heroes. He just doesn't look the part. But Naofumi kind of ignores this, and he doesn't necessarily care, but he does just go along with what they're saying, and he kind of laughs about it. They then arrive at the resort inn, and the heroes' parties recover from seasickness, while Naofumi goes off to XP grind with his party. They basically ask him if it's really even appropriate for him to be training, and he explains that he can kind of power level them now. They helped him a ton power leveling initially, so now they can go to the hardest place, and he's sure that he'll be able to handle it and power level all of them to close to his level. Maybe not on his level, but definitely close. So that's what they do. They go to the hardest place they can possibly find with the highest levels, and they begin to kill every monster in sight as quick as possible. Naofumi also tries to use his aura form, which he can only really get his red aura to appear, not a dark red aura, and not his purple or dark purple aura that he got to be exposed when he fought the Pope. But that's not really the main problem. He doesn't really care about all that. At this point, he's a high enough level, and training will just top off any feeling he can get in terms of using it. The next couple days, they fight monsters. Monster after monster after monster until their levels kind of start petering off and plateauing. The rest of his party is at a level of 55, well, Philo's 55, Rautalia 55, and Ellie unfortunately is at a 50. She can't fight herself, so she is limited in terms of leveling, and Naofumi is at a level of 75. He explains that it's now time to definitely take a little bit of a break. They've been training basically non-stop for a while now, so they decide to head to the beach. They begin relaxing and just hanging out as Philo is exploring the underwater, and she comes across this undersea temple. She comes basically swimming as fast as possible out of the water and explains to Naofumi that they need to check this out right now. So they do. They check out this giant sea temple to find out that there's a dragon hourglass at the bottom of it. It seems like it's connected to Kalmira somehow, and the next wave is due at Kalmira in only 48 hours. Learning of this, they immediately come soaring out of the water, and Naofumi says that he needs to teleport to the queen and tell her of what's happening. He teleports back to the kingdom and warns the queen about all of this happening, and she says she will amass a naval fleet and basically amass the largest one she possibly can. She sees that Naofumi is actually growing still pretty quickly, even with being a high level, and she says that with him there, they should be just a-okay. He smiles and says he hopes so. They all then head back to Kalmira, and 48 hours is as quick as just a couple hours. Immediately, it's now time for them to face the wave. While the Navy will fight the smaller creatures, the 4 heroes will fight the boss monster. It should be easy enough, at least hopefully. Eventually, the sea creatures show up, the naval units begin to fight it, and the other heroes, the spear, the bow, and the sword begin to fight the bigger giant fish, the giant boss monster. Naofumi steps in, landing a critical blow on top of the monster, and he realizes he killed it. It's already dead. Naofumi didn't necessarily realize how strong he actually is, and this is even without his, well, aura-like form. is just the 2.5x boost for his attack speed and stuff like that. Don't get me wrong, Naofumi is extremely powerful, especially in just his base form, but he didn't expect himself to be that powerful. The wave, of course, have given them a lot of trouble, so the fact that he was able to one-shot a boss monster is something he's surprised about. But he does expect some other challenges to show up, and just as he thinks of this, Lark and Therese show up on the monster with him. Raphtalia, Ellie, and Philo join him, and they stare daggers into them. You knew I knew the entire time, right? I mean, it was pretty blatantly obvious. I can tell by your emotions. They spike in certain areas. You feel hostility, but also kindness at the same time. You don't have this murderous intent, but you definitely have this idea that you want to hurt somebody. Are you a murderer, Lark? Therese? Are you good people? Because we don't need to do this, but if I have to protect my world, I will protect it. Therese and Lark are shocked to hear this, shocked to hear that that Naofumi already figured this out, that he figured out that they're part of the other world with glass. Naofumi has a hunch for these type of things, that he can figure it out relatively easily, that the wave has never shown to have a human or someone with a special weapon, so why would it now? He knows that it's blatantly obvious that the waves are a portal to another world, and they confirm this. They confirm that there's this place that they go to, which is their world, that they need to protect, and that their heroes need to die now. Therese and Lark attack Naofumi, but Naofumi's aura erupts, and they can't even get by his aura. Are you sure about this? Are you sure you want to go through with this? And Therese and Lark are shocked to see this, that how powerful is he exactly? Is he really that strong? Glass shows up as well and says that she will handle Naofumi, that they need to handle the other people. And Glass smirks at Naofumi, and Naofumi basically just slams her into another boat and dashes over to where she is. You're pretty cocky, Glass, taking me on one-on-one. I hope you have a plan this time. A really good one. Because if you didn't get stronger, I promise I did. Glass begins to say that she definitely got stronger, and they'll both see who stands a true chance. Naofumi begins to fight Glass in his normal form, and they seem relatively even, and Glass continues to turn up the pace, and she seems to start to outpace Naofumi. Naofumi's power, though, continues to rise. It feels like he's getting stronger and stronger throughout the battle. Even Glass is shocked to see this. Glass doesn't know what's happening. What's going on? What is this power he's showing? And his aura erupts. A red aura appears around him, and it seems like he's now outpacing Glass tenfold. It's not even a close match anymore. The fight isn't even close by any means. Naofumi is winning by a long shot. Every blast Glass shoots at him gets swiped away. Every strike with her fan gets flicked back to her. And every time she tries to close the distance to do anything, she gets flipped on her back and pinned to the ground. Naofumi has won this match, and has won it very convincingly. Lark and Therese see this and try to jump in, getting away from Raphtalia, Ellie, and Philo for the moment, and try to attack Naofumi, but his aura alone stops them. And it basically just keeps them in place, and he slams them on, obviously, to the ship that they're currently on. He looks at all three of them and tells them that it's their time to leave, that he'll give them one more chance, that's all that he'll give them. He doesn't care. It doesn't matter. This world is what he cares about, and frankly, if they're going to continue to threaten it, he will not hesitate next time to kill them. But maybe to refigure out their idea of saving their own world. Maybe there's another way. And if there isn't, then he'll be waiting. He'll be waiting when they come back stronger to fight him once again. And he'll be excited He may want to protect his world, but as a true martial artist, he likes a challenge, and right now, they are not that challenge he wants. He lets them go, and they stare in complete awe. Is this person even real? What is going on? Naofumi begins to walk away as the wave begins to drag them away. They ask Naofumi what's wrong with him. Why would he give up an advantage like this to not save his world, to not just kill them off and then the problems would go away? He looks at them and says that killing is not always the answer. It's only of means when it's critical, when it needs to happen. He feels that it doesn't need to happen now. They can figure this out, and he hopes they will come back, but not as enemies, as allies. And maybe one day they can figure out how to save all of their worlds. They disappear into the wave, and Glass, Lark, and Therese now have something to keep in mind. Naofumi is now standing there with his party standing around him, and they celebrate the end of the wave, the end of what seems to be the current combat, at least for now. They head back to the kingdom, and the queen thanks Naofumi, rewards him handsomely, and even says that she has what he seeks. And he smiles, thanking her, and taking his party to Raphtalia's old village, showing that he has lordsmanship over the village and that he'll rebuild it, just like how Raphtalia wanted, and that they'll do it together. Ellie, Raphtalia, and Philo, all happy to hear this, especially Raphtalia and her friend Keel. Now their village can come back to its former glory, and the person protecting it, the martial arts hero Naofumi Iwatani, will protect it with his life, and it will be protected forever. And that is a wrap for What If Naofumi was the martial arts hero. If you enjoyed, make sure to leave a like, sub, and comment down below if you enjoyed. Also, if you like the new style of intro I kind of introduced, a quick intro, maybe even with a quick sliver of you could say what could happen next or what happened in the past. If you like that type of intro, let me know. I actually kind of like it better. I think I'm gonna ease myself into this, how it's kind of either going to be a recap, like a very, very minor recap, like how I did in the beginning of this, or maybe even a clue for the future what if that is happening. Yeah, that's it. Hope y'all enjoyed. I hope y'all enjoyed this show here, What If, and I hope all y'all have an amazing day. Later.